Look, we'll tell you the secret of how to be a serial killer if you promise to never follow it. First of all, you need to have a body count of 3 or more people, but they can't be at the same place and at the same time. That would just make you a spree slayer. Secondly, you need to be super careful to plan out each detail over a long amount of time and really commit to each crime. Sounds harder than imagined, right? Might as well just get a job that pays well with that much effort, rather than kill people and end up in jail. The obsession with macabre and evil has always made serial killers somewhat of a public icon instead of a cautionary tale. From knife wielders to murderers in clown costumes, here's a list of 10 horrifying killers whose modus operandi is straight out of nightmares. Number 10. Lonnie David Franklin Jr. He's the Grim Reaper, known as the Grim Sleeper, for taking a 14-year break from his murder spree from 1988 to 2002, though it looks like he might not have slept at all. His serial killing career stretched from 1985 to 2007, during which he was accused of multiple accounts of murder and sexual assault. Franklin largely operated outside the media spotlight by targeting women on the fringes of society, including drug addicts and prostitutes, often dumping their naked bodies in alleys or on the side of the road. Franklin was convicted of the murders of 10 women and sentenced to death in June 2016. In a more gruesome turn of events, pictures of even more naked women were found from when the police searched his house with their eyes closed, indicating that there might have been more victims than we know. Number 9. Jeffrey Dahmer. What did you do when you turned 18? Had your first swig of beer? Threw a huge party at your graduation? Jeffrey Dahmer started killing. He would go on killing until his arrest in 1991 after an African-American man escaped his clutches and hailed down police near Milwaukee, Wisconsin. When the victim led police back to his captor's apartment, they discovered photographs of dismembered bodies, the severed heads and genitalia of several other men, and a tub full of acid that Dahmer had used to dispose of some of his 17 victims. 3 years before his 1991 arrest, Dahmer was convicted of drugging and sexually molesting a young teenager, but he was released after serving only a year, continuing his killing binge, which focused almost entirely on young, non-white men. Dahmer's sensational trial, featuring lurid descriptions of his eating the body parts of some of his victims and admissions of necrophilia, renewed the world's interest in serial killers. In 1992, Dahmer was sentenced to 957 years in jail. Number 8. Harold Shipman. Best way to avoid being known as a killer? Just appear normal, dude. That's what Harold Shipman did. He was a married family man and a doctor who killed at least 218 of his patients. It was first noticed by some of his colleagues who found it sus that he was writing more death certificates than necessary. This initial investigation being shoddily handled allowed Shipman to kill 3 more times. Shipman's luck ran out when the daughter of his final victim, lawyer Kathleen Grundy, claimed he'd not only killed her mother, but had also tried to create a new fake will naming him as her sole beneficiary. Unlike his earlier victims, Grundy had not been cremated, and an autopsy revealed lethally high levels of diamorphine. He was formally charged with 15 murders and was convicted and sentenced to life without parole in 2000. Shipman died in 2004 after committing suicide in his cell. He never admitted to any of the killings. Number 7. Belle Gunness. The name Lady Bluebeard sounds romantic, right? No. The woman who became known as the Lady Bluebeard immigrated to America from Norway in 1881, settling in Chicago where she married a fellow Norwegian immigrant. The couple had 4 children, 2 of whom died young. When her first husband mysteriously died, she claimed that it was from scalding water and being hit on the head by a meat grinder. She quickly remarried, and 8 months later, her second husband died. Gunness then placed newspaper ads in search of a third husband with the requirement that potential suitors visit her Indiana farm. Belle Gunness's remains were found in 1908 after a fire destroyed her family's farmhouse. Amongst the wreckage were the bodies of her children and the decapitated headless corpse of a woman. In a shocking turn of events, search for her missing head, which never turned up, led to the gruesome discovery of almost a dozen bodies. Number 6. Ed Gein. This one's for all you Hitchcock fans in the house. And yes, we're talking about the Psycho Killer. Ed Gein, made famous by the fictional alias Norman Bates, had his father, brother, and mother die within a 5-year period. He was abused by an alcoholic father and a puritanical and domineering mother who instilled in her son a pathological fear of sex. Police found a hall of horrors that included human body parts turned into household items such as chairs and bowls, faces used as wall hangings, and a vest made up of a human torso. Many of these items were from 9 already dead bodies that Gein had stolen from their graves, but he had murdered one other woman in addition to Bernice Worden, making his total murder count to 2. Gein was diagnosed with schizophrenia and declared unfit for trial. A decade later, he was convicted of one of the murders, but was declared insane at the time of the crime and spent the rest of his life in a mental hospital. Number 5. John Wayne Gacy. You know the phrase, hiding in plain sight, right? It is working out almost too well for number 5 on our list. To most of his suburban Chicago neighbors, John Wayne Gacy was a friendly man who threw popular block parties, volunteered in Democratic local politics, and often performed as a clown at local children's parties. But Gacy, who had already served a stint in prison for sexually assaulting a teenage boy, was hiding a horrific secret right beneath his neighbors' unseeing eyes. It all started when John Wayne Gacy's ex-wife had complained about the smell of mildew for years, but Gacy chalked it up to moisture. In 1978, police found the decomposing bodies of 29 boys and teenagers that Gacy had raped and murdered. Gacy was convicted on 33 counts of murder and executed by lethal injection in 1994. Number 4. AILEEN WUORNOS. Remember the film Monster, which Charlize Theron keeps killing men who abuse her? The one that helped her win the Oscar. This is the woman she portrayed. A Daytona Beach prostitute who killed at least 7 men from 1989 to 1990, AILEEN WUORNOS is one of America's most celebrated serial killers. Though her sanity was questioned, WUORNOS was executed by lethal injection in 2002. Number 3. Ted Bundy. Now let's come to the poster boy of American serial killers. Courtesy of the footage, his story is still getting on Netflix. Handsome, well-educated, and brimming with charm, Ted Bundy seemed the unlikeliest of serial killers, which made his decade-long, multi-state killing spree all the more surprising, and to some, appealing. Bundy committed a series of murders. He was convicted of kidnapping, but escaped from custody twice while awaiting trial in Colorado. Bundy's last victim was a 12-year-old girl who he raped and murdered. The trial of serial killer Ted Bundy was the first murder trial to be fully televised. The case became a media sensation when he was finally apprehended while driving a stolen car. He was executed in the electric chair in 1989, with the true number of his victims unknown. Number 2. Jack the Ripper. The OG serial killer who started it all. Jack lured prostitutes into darkened squares and side streets before slitting their throats and mutilating their bodies with a carving knife. A number of letters were allegedly sent by the killer to the London Metropolitan Police Service, also known as Scotland Yard, taunting officers about his activities and speculating on murders to come. Without modern forensic techniques, Victorian police were at a loss in investigating the Ripper's heinous crimes. After taking his final victim, the killer seemed to disappear like a ghost. The case was finally closed in 1892, but Jack the Ripper has remained an enduring source of fascination. Number 1. H. Holmes. Number 1 on our list is a peak psychopath. There are no two ways about it. H.H. Holmes built a 3-story inn that he secretly turned into a macabre torture chamber. Some rooms had hidden peepholes, gas lines, trapdoors, and soundproof padding. Both before and during the World's Fair, Holmes led many victims, mostly young women, to his lair to asphyxiate them with poison gas and take them to his basement for horrific experiments. He then either disposed of the bodies in the furnace or skinned them and sold the skeletons to medical schools. Holmes was eventually convicted of the murders of 4 people, but he confessed to at least 27 more killings before being hanged in 1896. What are your thoughts on these terrifying killers? Who do you think would win in a cat and mouse chase with these psychos, the FBI or the killers? If you think that that's a good video game idea, let us know in the comment section below, and we might just make a video about it. And hey, if you've enjoyed this video, don't forget to smash the like button. Thanks for watching. See you in the next video.